Make of yourself a light, the Buddha said. Make of yourself a light, Mary Oliver reminded. What the world needs most is light. Now and from the beginning of stories of many established religious paths and spiritual traditions, the message of light is present. When ancient leaders and way-showers looked upon the faces of the frightened and into the hearts of the suffering, instinctually, intuitively, primally, they manifested light to heal, to hearken, to welcome. The circles we create function as both beacon and solarium, a signal to alert seekers of its presence, a place of solace for those within its embrace, brightly beckoning those of like mind and spirit to enter the circle, benevolently sheltering those who do. Circles of comfort, circles of celebration, circles of companionship, those within accompanying each other on their journeys. Sometimes circles of exclusivity are necessary. Indeed, sometimes circles of indefinitive dilution saturate a group's purpose beyond recognition. Know that there is a world of difference between bigoted exclusion and intentional inclusion. How do we know when it's best to widen our circles? When is it most beneficial to maintain the margins in missions of origin, boundaries to contain and to keep out for the protection of those within? Are there merits to expansion? Are there solid grounds for exclusion and exclusivity? Several years ago, I attended a service where the guest speaker spoke of his lineage in Freemasonry. He spoke about the fraternal bonds of the order, the history and current activities of the group to the extent that he could. As with many groups, there are things held in confidence accessible only to those who are members of the group. In his instance, he spoke of storytelling being a core part of his group's practice. While some of the order had begun to open to women, his was still a men's-only chapter, and so the teaching and sharing catered to the views and experiences of men. It was integral to his reason for being part of that specific chapter. At coffee hour afterwards, we were sitting at the same table, and I was introduced as an interfaith minister and as the leader of the women's enrichment programs, including women's retreats and workshops. Upon hearing this, the man's posture and demeanor visibly changed. His shoulders tensed and his smile was slightly more fixed. His immediate comment to me was that he supposed that I was opposed to men's-only groups, and my response surprised him. I referred to his lecture where he spoke about the stories designed from male perspective. I said the same is true for women in our circles, our stories, our rituals, the depths we can explore together as a group of women. Even our music, our chanting, our dancing, and drumming would change completely if a man were among us during those times. The feminine language in our lyrics and poetry, the female-centered topics and programs are integral parts of these gatherings. So I agreed men and women should be able to access spaces exclusive to them. In fact, I believe it's integral for a woman's well-being to be regularly in the company of other women. I assume this to be true of men as well. Upon hearing this, the man visibly relaxed, and a door opened for us to be able to learn more about each other. We discovered many similarities in how we teach and facilitate, even though our audiences and group members were vastly different. We also bumped up against areas of disagreement, yet we were able to navigate potential polarization as we had early on found common ground in our ministries. Sadly, our differences in opinion and culture and our practices can sometimes function as a distraction that drives individuals into factions that need not be. We can hold two divergent truths. Sometimes, in the pursuit of being more inclusive, we end up dismantling things that are vital in their more exclusive forms. For instance, I'm part of support groups for parents whose children have died. And within those circles, there are several subgroups or subcircles. Parents can join that relate specifically to the way their child died. These groups are exclusive groups, designed for processing and coping and witnessing one another. There is immense value in a close-knit, narrowly focused, singularly serving circle, the value of which would not only be diminished, but would be utterly erased if it were more inclusive. As a woman with decades of experience leading and participating in female-centered circles, I can, with confidence and enthusiasm, affirm the benefit in such exclusivity, in such a forum. As a grieving mother of a son whose death was indescribably violent, I can insist that an intentionally, exclusively closed circle is necessary to enable the vulnerable expression of that particular grief among those who share it. There is also immense value in other arenas for circles to be far more inclusive, widening to the point of containing polar opposites of spectrums of experience and belief. Spiritually, yes, yet perhaps even more so in today's age, politically. Such a profound, widened circle is inherently necessary in our communities. And how could it be any other way, residing in a state such as Maine, in a country such as the United States, where the scope of that which people hold dear is broad yet specific to their own understandings? Much of the time, we are charitable when it comes to giving credit to others as they, like us, pursue paths to truth. We give the benefit of the doubt to others in countless circumstances, yet struggle to do so in regards to opposing political beliefs. Sometimes our opposition reveals itself as an unwillingness to listen to another's political views. We change topics or otherwise remove ourselves from potentially uncomfortable conversations about politics, being inaccessible and perhaps dismissive. Other times, our opposition is so strong and our hearts so hardened against any other truth but our own, it manifests as complete disregard for the other perspective. We find ourselves compelled to enter conversations with or about another's political viewpoints combatively, ready to fight, harsh words at the ready. Worse still, we turn the other, in our own minds, into our enemy. And with that frame of mind, it is easy to fast track to name-calling, gaslighting, and engaging in various forms of slander, outright or subtle, designed to discredit the other person. As a people of faith, we proclaim love as one of our essential philosophies, our essential actions. Yet all too often, love is replaced with animosity when it comes to each other's political inclinations, making effective, let alone compassionate, communication all but impossible. Cleo Wade tells us there is not a single conversation that kindness cannot make infinitely better. There is not a single conversation that kindness cannot make infinitely better. Love your neighbor as yourself, as quoted from Christian scriptures, did not have an asterisk after it, nor did it have a qualifier based on the neighbor's predisposition. Love your neighbor except when they disagree with you is found nowhere in any spiritual text of any living tradition. Prophetic faiths must turn to those who implore us to love. Edwin Markham's epigram, often quoted in our religious circles about circles, concisely and quirkily declares, "He drew a circle that shut me out, heretic, rebel, a thing to flout. But love and I had the wit to win. We drew a circle that took him in." Markham, an Oregon State laureate, spoke often of love and of grace and of kindness as learned measures to be embraced and practiced. He prayed, "Teach me, Father, how to go softly as the grasses grow. Teach me, Father, how to be kind and patient as a tree." These words of Edwin Markham and those of Cleo Wade and Mary Oliver can become templates in our contemplative practices as we seek to ever widen our circles of inclusion. Compassionately, mindfully, may we seek to embrace and create with those we disagree with. Whether they be long-held beliefs, new understandings, or personified truths, may we seek help if it's difficult to enter harmonious conversations with those we disagree with. I applaud organizations who offer such an open welcome to those with diverse spiritual and political backgrounds. I am grateful especially to organizations who facilitate training and respectful conversations and foster the healing of such polarization. Braver Angels is one such organization. Its mission is to bring Americans together to bridge the partisan divide. No easy task. Braver Angels affirms the following: politics is tough. It has always been. American politics is competitive, thrilling, frustrating, and infuriating. The stakes are high, issues are important, outcomes matter. This is why we care and should care about politics. But, they ask, do our politics have to be demonizing? Does it have to bring out the worst in us? What can we do instead of actively participating in this extreme polarization? Among Braver Angels' goals is to heal the wounds between the left and the right. It's about challenging institutions to be better, encouraging individuals and organizations to build community together. Our world is fraught with tension, stress, and polarization, clearly evident in the USA political spectrum and of the commentary of and about it. A category whose uncontained polarization infiltrates and eclipses the well-being of our communities and of our family, friend, and spiritual circles. Braver Angels' objective is to move from hatred and disdain to respect and appreciation. That may seem like a pie-in-the-sky dream. I assure you, it is attainable. They model skills to bridge the divide via workshops, debates, music, public speaking, op-eds, internships, and mentorships. They form local alliances from within a cross-section of political persuasions, and they tackle some of the most difficult topics Americans face today. Conversations that until recently have been completely shut down. Conversations for which the moderation of in a thoughtful, respectful, nonpartisan, loving setting has been absent on our political and our spiritual fronts. Necessary conversations all too derailed and denied in our us versus them call out cancel culture. Another organization that serves to increase compassionate communication around difficult topics is Heterodox Academy, consisting of more than 5,000 professors, educators, administrators, staff, and students. Heterodox was created as a resource to enhance the quality of research, education, and discourse. Founded in part by Jonathan Haidt, author of The Righteous Mind, Why Good People Are Divided by Politics and Religion, a book that has been studied by clergy of many faiths all over the world as we seek to find common ground with those in the communities we serve. Heterodox believe that the best way to prevent orthodoxy and ostracism from taking root is by fostering three key principles: open inquiry, viewpoint diversity, and constructive disagreement. What manifests when such paths for discussion are open is a welcoming, a widening of the circle that is more accepting of diverse opinions. It doesn't mean that we agree with the opinions, but we're listening to each other. Such a format offers a lens of curiosity and creates discovery and innovation and growth that otherwise could not take place in a unilateral framing. The most common inclination is to segregate based on political beliefs. And some may still wonder, why shouldn't we? They do the same, right? The affirmation, "We are the ones we have been waiting for," has been spoken by a multitude of speakers over the years. Most endearingly to many of us are these words originating in June Jordan's poem for South African women as spoken to the United Nations, repeated by Alice Walker in her book by the same name, and woven into lyrics by Sweet Honey in the Rock. Time upon time, we are reminded that we are the ones we have been waiting for. We acknowledge this, we embrace this, we affirm this, except when we don't. All too often, when it comes to politics, many would rather remain in their polarized circles than consider stepping into one that has room for more worldviews. We hesitate to initiate widening when it comes to our circles of politics. Some of us cringe at the very idea of it. Our walls are up, conversations closed. And when we don't want to do something, we can easily find all sorts of reasons to not do it. One of the most fundamental needs for every human being is the need to be understood. This activates at its highest potential when it is a two-way street, the giving and receiving of understanding mutually explored by all involved. What could we learn from each other if we set our difference not merely aside, but set our differences in center stage? What would you want your neighbor, your friend, your family member to understand about your political inclinations and loyalties? Perhaps even expanded to include how your spirituality informs your political inclinations, or how your political inclinations inform your spirituality, as the case may be. Would you grant them the grace and love to enter an environment where you can learn about theirs? Are you willing to contribute to the widening of the circle, to welcome in those with whom you politically disagree? Will you do so in kindness, in grace, in love, to intentionally create the peace, liberty, and justice humans inherently seek? You are the ones you have been waiting for. Make of yourself a light, the Buddha said. Make of yourself a light, Mary Oliver reminded. What the world needs most is light. Amen.